Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ. And again, we're going to take a look at a television show or movie and look at its premise. Sometimes the premise and the execution isn't really the greatest, which is actually good for us because we're going to take that and use that for our tabletop role playing experience, especially if you're into sci-fi. So this channel has carved out his niche in the interwebs for tabletop role playing games and science fiction. And we're going to take a look at a television show back in 2009 called Flashforward that had an interesting premise. Now, of course, in science fiction, the premise, the what if of the story is science fiction's. Uh, it is like the pinnacle of science fiction. Normally, we take a technology or an event and we say, "Well, what would life be? What if something happened?" So, for those who don't know, Flash Forward was an American television series, and it aired September 2009 until May 2010. And excuse me, it's based on a 1999 novel of the same name, Flash Forward, by a Canadian science fiction writer, Robert J. Sawyer. And the series revolves around the lives of several people as a mysterious event causes nearly everyone on the planet to simultaneously lose consciousness for 2 minutes and 17 seconds. During the blackout, people see what appear to be visions of their lives. On April 29, 2010, a global flash forward 6 months into the future. Now, the original story showed individuals what their lives would be like 21 and a half years into the future. But the television series showed everyone what their life would be like in 6 months in the future. There were some pretty ridiculous things involved in it, but the actual event where everyone passes out around the world for 2 minutes and 17 seconds, they actually show some pretty horrific things that happened. Airline pilots passing out, people in the streets and buses going out of control and things of that nature, helicopters falling out of the sky. It was pretty bad. Shai's like, yay, more stuff for my permanent vacation from TV. Yeah, we're doing this so you don't have to actually watch the shows. Again, some of the terrible execution things that happen in television are basically a lot of the premise is padded out with television drama tropes, right? The love triangles and the what are some really ridiculous tropes? Oh, we get a main character or a side character who gets ready to walk around the corner to hear a conversation, looks at the people involved, makes an assumption, and then walks away and never actually walks up to the individuals in question and go, "Hey, what are you guys talking about? Hey, how are you?" Know what I mean? One of those misinterpretations. Or what's another trope? They pick up a phone and they get ready to call each other, and they say on the phone, "I can't tell you on the phone. Meet me at imminent death, point in some unknown location." And then, of course, in the interim, when they get there, one or more of the individuals end up dead, and now there's a mystery. And it's like, you could have just text them the information. Like, what was the big deal? Shit Lords is like, yeah, it sounds like a global nitrous attack. It was a pretty fun show because we had one of our cast of characters refused to talk about their flash forward event, because in the television show, the flash forward event, so everyone wakes up after 2 minutes and 17 seconds, and the flash forward of their lives within 6 months is imprinted in their brains. It is as if it really happened. And according to the television show, everyone around the world starts having these water cooler conversations until they make a website to actually try to um, uh, the global event makes a global reckoning where people try to connect with the events that are supposed to happen in the future. And during that time, individuals start, what's the term? Um, Self-fulfilled prophecies start happening as some individuals try to make the thing happen in their flash forward, but it's actually causing the opposite effect, and so many other things. For example, Flash Forward is constructed around a high concept. If those who played the role playing game Fate know about high concepts, but anyways, around a high concept narrative where a mysterious event has caused nearly everyone on the planet to simultaneously lose consciousness for 137 seconds, during which time people see what appears to be a vision of their own life approximately 6 months in the future. A team of Los Angeles FBI agents and begin the process of determining what happened, why, and whether it will happen again. Now, some individuals, there's some pretty ridiculous things. Like one guy refused to talk about it, and when you get to see his flash forward, he's actually on the toilet the entire time, which is pretty ridiculous. Because I think he's on the toilet when the flash forward happens, and then his flash forward in 6 months is him on the toilet. It's like nothing happened to his life. But then we have a bunch of other characters. Like one guy becomes like this warlord, cult leader. Another guy falls in love with a woman that he thinks is from Japan. So he tries to travel to Japan, and lo and behold, really he was supposed to meet her in California where he lives, but he thinks, oh, we went out for Japanese food and she's Asian, probably Japanese. I'm going to go to Japan. And it was like, no, dude, it was just a place that was around the corner. And there was a bunch of events like that. There were a number of people who saw themselves in terrible situations. And unfortunately, because of the event where people passed out for 137 seconds, some of those people died, and others did not see themselves in 6 months. And it became kind of like a cult where these individuals are like, they're like nulls. They don't have a future. And so they begin acting out. And then there's others who start risking their lives because they know nothing's going to happen to them within the next 6 months. So they feel like they're invulnerable, they're immortal. And so you follow the lives of these really strange and different cast of characters. Some of them come in contact with each other. And so it was a bit of comedy and action and adventure and things of that nature. Taste Bernard says, did they ever explain what caused it? Go ahead and spoil, please. All right, so okay, you want me to get the spoiler alert out and tell you exactly what happened and how it happened? So they never had a season 2. And this, I remember I said this before, one of the downsides of television and how television is made is that the TV producers are not interested in finishing the story. All they want are eyes viewing things so that advertisers, they can sell their show to advertisers. And because of the success and or failure of a show, if a show fails, they're just going to cut the show. If the show is successful, they have to come up with the writers have to come up with new reasons to continue the premise. This show only lasted 1 season, and at the end of the first season, at the 6-month mark, where everyone is supposed to experience this event that they picture, everyone passes out for another 137 seconds, and there's another flash forward. That's how it ends. They never explain why it happened, how it happened. Throughout the television show, there are people who are talking about, like, is this something that normally happens in society? Was this a historical event and we're living through it again? Is this an alien imagery? Is this like a neutrino bombardment? Is this like a psychic power? Is this a device that was created? They never answer that. They just never answer it. And this was a period of time during the where writers were embracing the mystery box writing method. So uh, we'll get into mystery box in a minute, but yeah, it was crazy. It was. I like the ending of the season. Honestly, I very rarely like shows that don't answer something. So here's from the Wikipedia page. It says, uh, the day, this is the end, the synopsis of the last episode. So the day seen in the flash forwards arrives. Most of the flash forwards have come true, but in some cases with alterations. Um, there are various characters they're trying to that kind of like they finish up their story arcs, and then here we go. Janice and her doctor surprised when an ultrasound shows a healthy boy instead of a girl. Mark gets drunk, bails him out of jail. People apparently experience flash forwards to varying future dates from the point at time at which the end of the show ends at the 6-month mark. It was like April 29th or something like that. I think, was it April 29? Yes. And then on April 29th, everyone has a flash forward, but not everyone flashes forward exactly 6 months. They all start having different images flashing forward to different periods of time, and that's how the show ends. So they never really answer. They never answer it, which is crazy. Yeah. Yeah. Rapid decline in viewership. Flash Forward receives general positive reviews. Flash Forward robustly entertains with an addictive concept, top-notch production, exciting apocalyptic setting. Yeah, and its reason is because so many people like what was kind of cool about the show, and what we're going to talk about in terms of the premise is that sometimes I love a premise that changes like our socio-political system, how people act and react to each other, and then we get to take a look at like basically what people's true side. For example, lots of people walked away from their jobs or walked away from their relationships because they saw in the future maybe their relationship ended, so they start ending them sooner. There are individuals that are just like, listen, in 6 months, I'm going to win the lottery and I'm going to be filthy rich because I end up getting a scratch off ticket or something. So, F you, boss, and things like that. So there are a lot of people who are living their best lives and some of them living their worst lives as well. Maybe some of them had flash forwards to pretty horrific moments in their life. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, one individual found out that a family member was diagnosed with a terminal disease. So they try to spend the 6 months trying to figure out how to help them without exactly telling their family member what was going to happen to them. Oh, I hear you there, Caligulus. Love triangles. All right, let's see what our co-hosts have to say. TA says, would be funny if the moment was caused by Cthulhu waking up for a second because of his snoring. Wake him up enough to shift and then went right back to sleep. Yeah, it was like Cthulhu's like, what happened? And everyone's just like, no, psychic brain fart. Yeah. The initial pilot of the show where you see like helicopters and planes falling from the sky and buses just and cars randomly rolling in the streets as people were unconscious, like just dangling out of windows and falling in parks and whatnot. It's pretty horrific as a apocalyptic type of event, but nice. Yeah, you could become a warlord 2 minutes in the future. Sounds like there is hope after all. No, 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 no. They passed out for 2 minutes. They their flash forward was of them as a warlord 6 months into the future. And so they went about trying to make themselves into that individual in the first place, even though they were like some schlub nerd or whatever. Yeah. Drew says, have not watched this show, but the stuff with the future reminds me of Heroes. Saves a cheerleader, save the world. Yes, Heroes. Oh, man. Again, another great premise that kind of went off the cliff. It suffered from mystery box writing as well. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the old ones have apnea. Yeah, can't get to sleep. Keeps snoring and choking on their own tongue while they sleep. Yeah, who'd have thunk? Oh man, that's funny. Yeah, Drew, I remember Heroes. And for those who don't know, there was a period of time where mystery box writing was the end all of television. So for long form television, and this is like early 2000s, 2010s, 12-ish or something, mystery box writing was basically writers come up with a premise of a show like this one. Everyone passes out and gets a vision of the future of themselves 6 months in the future. And then they introduce mysteries. So as the writers in the as all the writers in the writing room gather together, they come up with mysteries. Some of those mysteries might be codes or words or phrases or characters and things to give us red herrings in the show. So maybe there is a strange symbol that is seen on a billboard and a tattoo and a little child writing it in a notebook that sound, and the child is like, has some like very adult behaviors or something. Maybe there is a strange behavior from animals, like in Lost, there was a polar bear in the middle of the jungle. There are characters who have strange behaviors, maybe staring off into space or absently hurting themselves, like picking at a scab or something. I don't know, or wearing a strange T-shirt, or whatever. And these mystery box television shows, the writers did not know what the answer was to all of these mysteries they would sprinkle throughout the television show. And the idea was to have the water cooler event. Each week, people would go back to work and they would talk around the water cooler about, wow, I saw the number 413 8 times in that episode. I wonder what that means. Someone would say, this person is always wearing a T-shirt, and the words on their T-shirt are all quotes from Shakespeare or something, right? And the writers would then take maybe a few of those mysteries, that mystery box, and maybe expand on it or continue the mystery without ever answering the question. Or they would answer one question to only open up 15 other questions, and so on and so forth. And yeah, TA's like, yeah, mystery box writing almost sounds like the cube from Hellraiser. Yeah, let's see if I can pull out my cube here. Yeah, the lament configuration. Now, this one's just an empty. I wonder if you can actually see through it. If you could see, it's actually hollow. I don't know how much this was, $10, $15 or something like that from like Stearns or whatever. Now they make these lament configurations that are actual puzzle boxes. But yeah, I've got my own lament configuration right here, a puzzle box down in the Hellraiser. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a nerd. Shit, there we go. I am. Plus, I like to put I'll put dice on it. I've got a little light right here to shine on my face to kind of get rid of the shadows that I use it for. But the dangers of the mystery box are self-apparent. If you never answer the question, then people who are watching the show will just give up because they'll realize they're just dragging me along. They're never going to answer the question. But the good reason for the mystery box in terms of television writing was that if the show gets on a second season, a fifth season, a seventh season, there's always more story to lead to the next episode, next 3 episodes, next season, next 3 seasons to answer the mystery of what was left in the mystery box. So if the show gets canceled early, you never get an answer. If the show continues on, great, we've got more fodder. We're just going to keep creating more mysteries. So this show was kind of like that. Now, mind you, to be honest with you, it was a fully encapsulated show. It did have an ending. It did follow forward all the way to the very end of the moment at which individuals flash forward came true. Now, throughout the show, which I did appreciate in the television show, there were characters who were mentioning like someone would know that in their future, they would own a brand new car. But halfway, 3 months into their living their lives, maybe they get severely injured or they lose their memory or they end up getting killed. And then they realize these flash forwards aren't exactly it's not really predictable in the sense of it will happen, it might happen, or it may happen in the future, but not the way you thought, or it your future may come true, but the individuals that are surrounding you in this future may or may not be there because maybe they passed away, and uh, and of course, there's many people. There, of course, there were sycophants and cult leaders and individuals that are coming up because people wanted to know what the answer was to this event that happened. And of course, people became very narcissistic. A lot of people didn't really care why it happened. They just want to know whether their future was going to come true or not. And the the intermingling of having a great future and a terrible future, or a boring future or an exciting future, made characters who normally had very close knit relationships start to break apart, or some people who had no relationship with each other come together knowing that they would be intertwined 6 months into the future. And so it was pretty cool. Now, for tabletop role playing and science fiction, there is what I love about this premise, this high concept, is that players could, I mean, you could really start out the game and go, hey, listen, you need to tell, for the high concept of your character, what will happen to your character 6 months into the future, and are you trying to make that thing happen or avoid that event happening? It's almost like self-railroading, and I think that'd be kind of cool to like self-railroad your own character, to come up with a number of events that will happen in the future, at least as far as this concept goes, and player characters falling into that. Like for example, a character could say, I'm going to buy a cup of coffee and my true love is going to bump into me and I'm going to spill the coffee on my chest. And I don't get to even see their face. They bump into me, the coffee spills, I turn around, I see the back of their head, and I'm like, I know I'm supposed to be with that person. And then the game master could come up with that NPC and how things happen and whatnot. Yeah, I think it would be kind of cool. TA says, in the Star Rigger, the mystery box was a cube that, while thought to be a map of the universe, turned out to be a universe that was folded up on its dimensions with nothing inside, enabling making one. Oh, enabling making another cube for another universe. That's actually kind of cool. That's actually a really good idea. Now, one sometimes we have a premise where, like video games, where you have maps and the first thing that players do is try to scramble to the very edges of the map. Like the premise for this television show Flashforward, many people will try to figure out, you're going to get players who are going to say, well, why did this happen? That's not the important thing. Like the why did the thing happen, whether it's Cthulhu wakes up in the middle of the night and has to, has to go relieve his bladder, or whether it's an alien signal, or whether, I don't know, it's a neutrino bombardment from that happens every 100,000 years because of the spinning of the galaxy, or none of that matters. All that matters is that the event happens and the people on Earth have to live with it. And it becomes, what I did appreciate is the show didn't shy away from the fact that everyone on Earth had a flash forward. And so literally within the show, there was water cooler talk. People in the streets would talk about it. People would ride buses. They would be they would be despondent, kind of absently, walking down the street, stumbling into things. There were some people who were trying to drink or use addictions to get the image out of their heads. There were other people that were just like, woohoo, I'm gonna be in the future, I'm gonna be the man. Yes, there were individuals who were like starting, they were having affairs because they were just like, well, I'm probably going to have an affair in the future, so I guess might start now. There were people who saw other people having affairs and they were like, I hate you. And the person's like, well, what happened? I don't understand. And many people who misinterpreted their vision in the future, because the vision in the future was only a matter of like, they saw themselves only like 15 seconds of themselves. So they didn't even get the context of what the vision was like. All they know is that it's going to happen. and they saw themselves in a certain position. So, like for example, if I'm not mistaken, in the show, the young man that became a warlord, I think he ends up getting assassinated soon after he takes leadership in this third world country. And so, like, he didn't see himself get killed; he just saw himself as a leader, right? Um, Same thing for, like, I think somebody was supposed to win the lottery and whatnot, and then they kept going out buying lottery tickets and spending all their money and stuff. It was just really weird. Caligula's Palace Live says, so you get to role play a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yep. Yep, you sure do. Sounds like they took the deja vu concept and expanded on it by size, not by concept. Yep, absolutely. Sometimes you guys know the deja vu concept where you're like, it feels like I've seen this or said this or been in this situation before. And I thought that would be kind of cool. Side note, I mentioned this before about how cool it would be to make a time travel secret agent role-playing game. And this concept feeds into it, right? Where players come up with predetermined events, and then they get bonuses like moxie or hero points or fate points or whatever, inspiration or whatever you want to call it. And they use that. The more they fall into the predetermined events, the greater their character has to survive, basically. Yeah. Shai says, wouldn't that be metagaming to the extreme? Of course it would. But I think that would be kind of cool though. Like in a weird, I'm going to railroad myself or my character, or at least railroad events to have a thing happen. Like for example, you could have predicted events from different players and then mix it up so it's not related to a specific player character. Like for example, someone buying a cup of coffee and getting bumped into, I might make that up, but someone else's character experiences that thing. And then I go, oh, that thing happened. That means this other event's going to happen, right? And it doesn't have to be on the nose, but I think it would be kind of cute in a tabletop setting. I don't know. Now, for me, I'm a half glass full kind of person. So it excites me. I don't know how exciting it would be for somebody else to kind of like play a game where every time an event happens that's you predicted, the closer you get to solving the event, the mystery, the groundhogging of things. I don't know. I'm not sure. How much micturation? I don't even know what that word means there, lords. TA says, I wonder if there's anything to be mined from the show. Resident Alien. Yeah, Alien shows up to destroy Earth and instead ends up saving it. Resident Alien. Yeah. Yeah, I think the episodes just dropped on Netflix. And I think it aired on Sci-Fi here in the States. But yeah, Resident Alien. Yeah, that actually sounds like a good concept. Comedic as all hell. I mean, just for the show, but yes. Yeah, Taste of Out says, funny, there are about 1 million videos on YouTube about how to deal with problem players who metagame. Right. I mean, like, why fight the thing that's going to happen? I always thought, why haven't we created more role-playing games based around us role-playing online? And why haven't we made more role-playing games that keep our cell phones at the table? I always thought that would be kind of cool. Like why ignore or fight against the thing that always happens? Like, why not use that? Plus, listen, when we role play, we always metagame, to be honest with you. But yes, there are players who use it to the extreme where they're using it to win the game by breaking the rules because they know what the book says or something like that, or they purchase the adventure and I think that's ridiculous. Like, why bother? Just write a book or play with yourself. I said it. I said it first. What? Timmy says, yeah, episode 5 of season 3, but it's still stuck in. You have to watch it at this time, like a prehistoric TV broadcast, unlike Netflix on demand still. You're what? Oh, shit. Lord says, how much piss can an ocean's worth? No, I'd say a pretty large lake's worth. If Cthulhu like wakes up in the night, like, uh, gotta empty the bladder. Here we go. Yeah. Cthulhu there, standing there, everyone looking at the back of Cthulhu's head, like, please don't turn around and drive me insane. Oh no, get one of those extra long piss sessions like from the movie Naked Gun, where he's on the oh, he's got the microphone with him as well. Yeah, and you just hear him going like, all you hear is just water falling, and he's like, oh yeah. Oh no, you leave my prehistoric television shows alone. Which is why so many Netflix shows don't stick in people's mind anymore, because there's very few things that happen at a specific time and place for everyone to experience that thing at a specific time and place, which is how old television would work. It would air at 8 o'clock on Wednesdays, and everyone would get together and watch it at 8 o'clock on Wednesday. And then the next day on Thursday, everyone would talk about it at work and things. And then everyone would be, chomping at the bit to wait for the next Wednesday at 8 o'clock. And then we would all experience it. Now, we really don't have that any longer. It's always like which is why like shows where all the episodes get dumped on streaming at the same time, we don't really talk about it anymore, because you never know when people are going to watch it. And then if you watch it later, most people are like, they've already missed out on the FOMO. They've already missed out on the fear of missing out, the FOMO. And once they miss out on that, they're just like, well, I don't even want to watch it anymore, because I'm already left behind. I'm not on my socials talking about it. I'm not getting like memes about it. The person who doesn't get to see it doesn't even understand the things that are being said about the show. So it just washes over them, and everyone just forgets about it, which is why weekly television is actually the better way to do it, despite the fact that, it's deferred pleasure. And, the FOMO. Yes. Drew says, yes, some shows still can produce that effect. Stranger Things pulled that off a little bit. It did, but it's usually the rarity, right? Like, Drew, I do agree with you. There are some shows that can pull that off, but just like yourself, House of the Dragon did the weekly thing, and even there are many people who were just like, I'm not watching that show because the original Game of Thrones sucked. But yeah, Drew says, but I agree. I prefer the weekly format too. Yeah, because it lets us sit into it. This television show Shogun is a perfect example. But we'll talk about that Shogun later. So getting back to Flash Forward, because I always get distracted, always get squirrel. What the hell? Yeah, the Flash Forward event also, whether for science fiction, whether we want a global event, whether this is something that happens in a space habitat or an alien world. For me, I would love this to happen. Some event of a similar type happening in a localized area, maybe a small moon or a habitat or a starship or something of that nature, and having this event happen. Now, the event doesn't have to be psychic, like everyone passing out for 137 seconds, causing all kinds of other things for problems to have detrimental effects. Although we tend to talk about apocalyptic and cataclysmic and post-apocalyptic things, so maybe we might have a bunch of red shirts end up getting killed. But whatever the case may be, that event could be through, I don't know, a radio signal to everyone's implant or something, or it could be a nitrous exposure, and that happens in a hab, and suddenly the filters clean out the dangerous. The filtration system cleans out the dangerous gases, and everyone wakes up and they're like, "Did you have a weird dream?" And everyone's like, "Yeah, I had a weird dream too. It felt real," and it. The explanation for the thing might not be there. Of course, in Obsidian Star, tabletop role-playing game I'm working on with you guys for free, could have something like a data core, could be plugged in. Someone plugs it in and tries to activate it, and all of a sudden there's like a weird sound that everyone's you get an ear-piercing sound, and people pass out, or they just fall down with their nose and tear ducts in their ears bleeding, and then they wake they come to their senses and they have some vision in the future. It just maybe it's just a weird like confluence of events. Hey, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn are all going to line up on this at this particular time, and everyone gets together to witness the event, and they're looking through telescopes and they're out there partying, and all of a sudden everyone passes out and they wake up, just like the show. They don't really explain it, and yeah, yep, 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 yep. Yeah, Flash Forward was originally developed for at HBO, which sold its option because it thought the show would be better fit for a broadcast network, which is unfortunate because I think HBO would have done a better job getting into some of the more adult themes. And also, I think this concept is a great way to get what would normally be in a role playing game a normie. You know, your zero level individuals, your base level characters to become motivated to become adversaries and opponents and enemies of our main characters due to this perception of the future. I mean, heck, you get enough data can get a computer program to predict the future as well. So something like that could actually happen more on a technological level, where maybe secret data only used for a major corporation is exposed to the public, and everyone on their cell phones in the future, we call them buttons in Obsidian Star, but everyone gets a squirt, a download of what, there's a 96.8% chance that this event will happen in your future, and everyone gets that downloaded to their phones, and they're like, what the hell? And I mean, something like that could happen as well, to have this what's going to happen in the future event. This is also a great way to foreshadow a number of things outside the purview of the player characters, but they still get the act on that thing. So if they're on Mars and something's happening on a moon on Saturn, and there's really no way for them to physically or visually to even know what's going to happen in the future, this kind of event could let them know, hey, guess what? I don't know, a moon's going to fall into the gas giant Saturn and kill, 37.6 million people that live on this moon. And the PCs are like, oh, we got to stop this. Ooh, what the hell? What could possibly push the moon out of orbit? And who would do such a thing? And then the mystery unfolds itself. Now, mystery boxing as a game master is a bit dangerous because just like the television shows, you might get your players to get very frustrated with a ton of red herrings where you never really answer the question. The good part of mystery boxing is to throw a ton of story hooks at the player characters, and then the player characters start assembling order out of the chaos, and then you steal from your own players. And let's be honest, if you got 3 to 5 players, who they're going to be more brilliant than you are with your simple brain power, just out of numbers. So you could throw a bunch of mysteries at them, and then when they start talking out loud and assembling the complexities of this chaos that you tossed out, then you start nodding your head like, yeah, of course you're right, as you start quickly writing notes down and things like that. Yeah, that's it. Right. Yeah, TA says, or an experiment with dreamscaping, and instead of 2 people connecting in a dream, the controller dream turns out to be too powerful and knocks a whole world out, controlling their dreams. It could also be an AI, yeah, that is so powerful it can predict the future, much how the Second Foundation predicted the future. Yeah, causes it through subtle reality manipulation. Yep, 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 exactly. And again, self-fulfilling prophecies, right? If a computer tells you that there's a 96 point blah 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 percent chance of a thing happening, and people act in a manner that leads to that thing happening, then in a way they're predicting their own future. It's the what's the concept? The warlord that goes to the oracle, and the oracle says, one half of your life you're going to be a powerful warlord and dominate the land. The other half of your life you're going to be besieged by an enemy that's going to take down your kingdom. And by the way, the leader of that kingdom is going to be your son. and your son is going to end up marrying your wife, who's his mom, or something, and then that the warlord proceeds to try to slay all of his illegitimate children, and one of those children is rescued and hidden away and taken to a distant nearby land, a neighboring kingdom, who then rises up against the warlord who is trying to crush everyone. And then, of course, that person who leads the rebellion is his son, who dominates the warlord, and then to form this, a more perfect union, marries the queen, who ends up being his mom. And so, it's the person that creates the thing. Drew says the players caused the moon to fall out of orbit in their attempt to prevent that happening in the first place. Yep. Yeah. I would absolutely lean into that as well. When players try to attempt to stop a thing, and their intrusion into stopping the thing causes things to happen that are going to lead to the thing happening, I would absolutely let that happen. And here's another thing with this premise that the show did lean into. Yeah, the future may not be written in stone. Maybe it's written in, I'll say, clay, maybe written in water. Like, yeah, just because you think the thing's going to happen and things are leading to you thinking it's going to happen doesn't mean it will, because everyone else has their own predictions, and they might cross your path and prevent you from getting to that point. So yeah. TA says, in that idea, though, the AI could be entering everyone's dreams and altering them slightly to cause interactions when awake that lead to a given desired outcome that it predicted in the dreams to them. Yeah. Caligula's palace says, yeah, dominate the warlord. I like the sound of that. Yeah. Wait a minute. That sounds a little dirty. Bad, Caligula's. Bad. Yeah, Kratos. He's a hottie, all right. Yeah. Yep. Kratos living one of the God of War. Isn't that a plot in one of the God of War games that Kratos sees the future, and the whole plot is him fighting against the muse or the fates or something that predicted his downfall or whatever. It's something like, I can't remember. You guys tell me about the God of War games, whether that's true or not. Maybe I'm misremembering, or maybe I'm misremembering a game that was similar to it. But I could be wrong, but hopefully I'm mistaken. Anyway, so I imagine maybe this technology or event or data core, alien artifact, monument, or something like that could actually take place, and this could lead into the bad guys, especially if I don't know, but he sure gets busy. Yeah, if you're that kind of player who's always like, ooh, half naked ladies, and then of course the camera moves off screen while Kratos has his way. But yeah, I can imagine this could lead into a bad guy having this predictive ability, and that might be their power, right? Like, the player characters have a hard time going against the bad guy because the bad guy keeps predicting, like, oh, I know what you're about to do before you even do it. I know what you're thinking before the thought even enters your head. And this bad guy keeps getting away with the thing, and the player characters have to fight against, almost become predictable, leaning into player characters who are very chaotic and stuff, maybe trying to become unpredictable or use the technology against them or the events against them, against the adversary to stop the thing. Also, when it comes to one of the difficult things about role-playing games and predictions of any type, oracles, predictions, auguries, portents in the future, is that this is literally live seat of the pants, unpredictable die rolls and things like that. You really can't predict the future. But if you lean into the premise, it's basically, here's the thing that is sure to happen. how do you fight against the thing? And of course, players always want to fight against absolute control. Just like we today, if someone were to tell you exactly what your future would be 6 months from now, some people would fight against it simply because they're being told what to do. Like, this will happen to you. You cannot change your future. And some people will try to change their future just to prove that they are in control and that we are not programmable human beings. Yeah, Drew's like, thinking? No, I don't do that. Thus, I am immune from villains that have mind reading capabilities. Yeah, it's like I'm immune to psychic powers. Why? Because you're very powerful with your own psychic abilities. Like, nope, I just don't have a thought in my head. Yeah. So, um, I like the idea of foreshadowing things, like whether you foreshadow. You know me, I love exploration, foreshadowing weather events, foreshadowing um, uh, interactions with NPCs that are important to player characters, and finding out like, oh, that NPC that your character has an intense relationship with, yeah, that NPC months from now is going to hate you and turn you into the authorities. And you're like, oh, well, what's the player going to do? Is the player going to take out, assassinate their own NPC because they see something like this happening in the future? Are they going to follow the NPC around? Will the NPC get suspicious of being followed by the person that they claim that trusts them, and they have this fully trusting relationship, and then they start to get suspicious, and then they realize, hey, you don't trust me, why are you following me? And that, and again, self-fulfilling prophecy. So I think there's a lot to mine from this event. And like I said, this doesn't have to be a worldwide, everyone around the world passes out for 137 seconds, but it could be documentation, digital information, placing one's hand on a glowing monolith, whatever the case may be. A limited number of individuals, let's say 5 dozen individuals on a starship, gets these images, these visions of the future, and they might, those individuals might start trying to assassinate each other because they all know that in the future there's only going to be one of them, and who's going to be the last one standing. And so they all try to like take each other out, including the player characters. Again, a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy as well. So I like the premise of this. The television show wasn't bad to me. Unfortunately, it did stink of mystery boxing. There were some storylines that I'm sure, depending on your sensibilities, like if you wanted the show to be comedic or you wanted to be serious, it popped back and forth between each of those depending on the characters you were following. So for some reason, for some people, that was pretty horrible. Let's see. There was like, for example, let's go through some of these flash forwards. The FBI agent, in the flash forward, he sees himself working on a mosaic investigation when armed masked men enter his office. He also sees himself drinking, which he tries to hide from his wife. Let's see, who's another flash forward? We have a flash forward. He has no flash forward and fears that means he will die, especially after he receives a mysterious phone call telling him that he will be murdered. He is engaged to a character, Zoe, a lawyer who believed her flash forward was about their wedding until she realized it was possibly his funeral. A character, Dimitri, survives past March 15, the date he was supposed to have been killed, thanks to Mark's assistance. Another character, his flash forward shows him on the toilet reading a newspaper. A young lady, her flash forward, she is romantically involved with a Dr. Lloyd Simcoe, although she has never met him before the blackout. Let's see, another person has a flash forward. In her vision, she was pregnant and having a sonogram, which she finds hard to believe because she is single and a lesbian. Who else? A lot of people have flashbacks that don't align with their personalities. Lloyd, this guy character Lloyd, believes they are responsible for the blackout, but according to Simone's uncle Teddy, they only amplified it, causing it to affect the whole world. Let's see. Characters on the verge of committing suicide due to a diagnosis of a stage 4 renal cell carcinoma when the blackout occurred. After the blackout, he experiences a renewed will to live and sees his vision as a gift. Later learns his cancer is in remission. One character, 19-year-old student, flash forward shows her being held underwater by a stranger. She is able to speak Japanese as she spent time in Japan as a child and is able to help Bryce interpret his flash forward, which included a sign in Japanese kanji. Who's another couple of flash forwards? He told his people in his flash forward he sees himself fighting and later killing a man, which was actually a lie. It revealed that he was given a ring that kept him awake during the blackout. One last one. His flash forward showed his daughter. His daughter Tracy was presumed killed in Afghanistan, but his flash forward showed his daughter alive mysteriously. In The Gift, the episode, he comes home to find Tracy in his living room. Agents of the military contractor Jericho later kidnapped Tracy from his home, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of the flash forwards were misaligned with the personalities, which, you know, maybe there's an upright, noble character that ends up getting arrested or is standing over a murder victim. Maybe there are characters, for example, the young lady that's like, wait a minute, why am I having a sonogram and I'm pregnant 6 months from now when I'm lesbian? Like, why? Yeah. A ring of nitrous breathing. Yes. A ring that allowed a character to not succumb to the flash forward event and allow them to walk around. Again, another thing that happened as a mystery box. They never answer, like, what would be the point of having a device that allows you to not fall unconscious for 137 seconds while the rest of the world did fall unconscious. Now, mind you, you could commit, maybe there's some heists you could commit or steal some important documents or things like that. But whatever. Yeah, Taste of Bad House is easy. He's Jesus. Yeah, exactly. What is it? Children, is it Children of a Lesser God or something? I can't remember. About a lady investigates nuns, and to come to find out at the end of it, she's pregnant or whatever, and she's investigating a death of a stillborn child or something in a nunnery, and the young girl, you know. Well, anyway, it's a whole big thing. Yeah, I can't remember the name of that movie. Oof, it was dark. Dirty Cleveland. Dirty. Yeah, dirty. Let me go find you a moist towelette to wipe that up there. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for letting me wax philosophic and reminisce about this television show Flash Forward. There was some fun. How many episodes was this show? This was back in the day where it was like 22 episodes was a cool thing. Yeah, 22 episodes. Yeah, for those of you young folk with your 8 episodes you think are too long. Yeah, this was a 22 this is when a full season was like 26 episodes, and then you could get the reruns with another 26, but this is 22 episodes. Usually like a 2-hour first and 2-hour second last episode. But yeah, kind of cool. And again, very high concept kind of idea, and having an event happen. And I like the idea of an event happening, and then the event doesn't predict what the actions are of the people. The event just happens, and then everyone starts reacting based on the event happening. Like an alien starship appears in the sky. What do you do? Everyone passes out for 137 seconds and gets an image of their future 6 months from now. What do you do? There are what was the show? The Leftovers. 1% of the population or 2% or something of the population suddenly disappears unexpectedly. What do you do? And yeah, Shiesty, yeah, he did it again. He voiced in the chat. Exactly. Yeah. So the idea that you could use this, and it's very monkey wrench, right? Where the high concept of a monkey wrench, where you throw a wrench, you give a wrench to a monkey and let them just go wild and start smashing things. And this flash forward event is that type of thing. It basically takes society and smashes it very deeply, and then everyone looks around and goes, now what do we do? Hey, we all saw our future. Many of us want that future to happen. Some of us didn't have a future. Others have a future we don't want to happen. And we get to see something that's going to happen in the future. How do we act and or react to it? Do we ignore it? Do we try to lean into it? Do we want it to happen? Do we stop it from happening? Uh, are we now living our lives in a different way because we've seen what the future will bring? And so um, as we find these things, it's the monkey wrenching. It's flipping society upside down. And sometimes if we've had long games, especially with the same group, and we're not sure how to mix things up, find something to mix a thing up, whether it's a weird event that happens during a solar eclipse, a a technological experiment goes out of control and gets into the hands of the general public. And I think one of the biggest things to take away from this is this event just doesn't happen, but it happens to the larger public at large and their assumptions about what a thing happens. It's not about what was it? It's not about the player characters getting access to it. It's about all of society getting access to the thing. So, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. We're going to cut it here. I do have to get out of here as well, and I actually have to take some pain relievers. Thank you very much for just entertaining me. What do we have next? I think we have Debris, and we have the prisoners coming up. We have a bunch of other shows, Debris, Ascension. What are some other things you guys mentioned? We might Dark Matter. Maybe we'll do Altered Carbon, because it really was a TV show. Shogun, 4400. A ton of these. So we'll keep going down this path and do some of these, and then when we break out of it, when maybe in the middle of April, when we break out of it, we'll go back into the basics of science fiction and tabletop role-playing games, and just we'll do some 101 classes. Whether we talk about starships, we want to talk about power armor, like the little staples of science fiction, and pull from that. Like, how do you run a utopia game like Star Trek? How do you run a post-apocalyptic game? How do you run a traveler game? How do you run? Yeah. Stopping right on time for Vice Friday. Hells yeah. Hell yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Everyone, have a great day. Thank you very much for spending your valuable time here. I hope I can make change for your science fiction tabletop role-playing experiences. Everyone, have a great one. Peace and tranquility.